Make sure we're recording this. Perfect. All right. Well, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Luke Elzinga. I use he, him pronouns. And in addition to serving as the board chair of the Iowa Hunger Coalition, I'm the policy and advocacy manager at the DMARC Food Pantry Network in Des Moines. Before we get started, I'd like to have our other speakers quickly introduce themselves. So I will hand it over to Anne.
Hey, everybody. My name is Ann Disher, and I'm Executive Director of Common Good Iowa. And we are a statewide research and advocacy organization focused on a wide array of policies that promote opportunity for Iowans, including food security.
All right, John.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is John Bowler. I'm the Executive Director of the Coralville Community Food Pantry, also on the board for the Iowa Hunger Coalition.
And Paige.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paige Chickering. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Iowa State Director for Save the Children Action Network. We work on child hunger specifically in the state of Iowa, ensuring that all kids are able to thrive here.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. We have kind of a joint statement that we'll be sharing, and we're then happy to field any questions. So the Iowa Hunger Coalition organized this press conference in light of the recent decision by the USDA to deny Iowa's request to operate a summer meal box demonstration project in lieu of participating in summer EBT in 2025. We appreciate the governor's recognition that Iowa is facing a hunger crisis and that many Iowans experiencing food insecurity are not adequately being served by nutrition programs in our state. We're here today as anti-hunger experts to issue a list of policy recommendations to Governor Reynolds to address food insecurity in Iowa.
First and foremost, Governor Reynolds should take immediate action to ensure Iowa participates in summer EBT in 2025. Summer EBT, also known as Sunbucks, is evidence-based policy and has been shown to improve healthy eating while reducing childhood food insecurity. Parents should be trusted to make the best food choices for their children.
Summer EBT was created to complement, not to replace summer meal sites. The program would provide $120 in nutrition benefits to 245,000 Iowa children, far more that are currently being served by other summer feeding programs. We certainly appreciate the governor's efforts to expand summer meal sites this year, but we also know that transportation and other barriers to accessing these sites will continue to exist, whether families live 2 blocks or 20 miles away. Sunbucks could be used at over 3,000 retailers and farmers markets across our state, and it has the potential to generate $45 million in economic activity for our local communities.
The state of Iowa has until January 1st to submit a notice of intent to USDA to participate in the summer EBT program in 2025. Iowa also has a tremendous opportunity here to have its share of administrative costs through a USDA technology grant. We could actually provide $29 million in nutrition benefits to our kids at a cost of just $1.1 million to the state of Iowa. Our children and families can't afford to miss out on this important program again, but we also should not stop here.
Second, Iowa should raise the income eligibility for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, to 200% of the federal poverty level. Increasing the income eligibility for SNAP up from 160% FPL would allow the program to support Iowans of all ages whose household incomes are currently too high to qualify, but still struggle to put food on the table. We estimate that doing so would extend SNAP eligibility to over 200,000 Iowans, half of whom are children and seniors. This would also increase the number of children eligible for summer EBT and free school meals through a process called direct certification.
Third, Iowa should provide state investment in Double Up Food Bucks program, which incentivizes the purchase of fresh fruits and vegetables for SNAP participants. We know that fresh produce can be cost prohibitive, and the high cost of healthy food is one of the top barriers SNAP participants face when trying to improve their diets. Iowa could also access federal matching funds to maximize this investment and double up food bucks and expand the program to more areas of the state.
Fourth, Iowa should expand its efforts to increase statewide participation in SNAP, WIC, and free school meals. Only 42% of Iowans who qualify for SNAP currently participate in the program, and only 45% of Iowans who currently qualify for WIC participate in WIC. We must do more to promote nutrition programs through public awareness and outreach campaigns, and we should also ensure that our state agencies have adequate funding to improve SNAP application processing timelines and to increase program access and public confidence in nutrition programs.
Ideally, Iowa should explore providing healthy school meals for all. This would ease program complexities, put more money back in the pockets of Iowa families, and make school debt a thing of the past. Short of universal free breakfast and lunch, Iowa could explore ways to increase the number of free school meals provided through the community eligibility provision and expand free school meals to all students who qualify for reduced priced meals.
Finally, Iowa should explore measures to eliminate food deserts across our state. With grocery stores shuttering in both urban and rural areas, Iowa should take action to keep stores open and establish new locations in existing food deserts. Doing so will improve access to healthy food for all Iowans, including those using SNAP, WIC, and summer EBT.
All of these recommendations would bring in tens of millions of dollars in nutrition support for Iowans facing food insecurity and ease the struggle of our neighbors, our food pantries that they're feeling right now.
Every single one of these proposals has bipartisan support from both Republicans and Democrats in the Iowa legislature. Feeding our children is an investment truly in the future of Iowa. When kids lack adequate nutrition, it has lasting impacts on the rest of their lives. This is all to say that we must do everything in our power to support the physical, mental, and emotional health of our children. No child, nor any Iowan for that matter, should ever go hungry.
Now, we don't sit on this Zoom today without an awareness that this is an ambitious set of proposals. But, we must be ambitious when it comes to fighting hunger. Because make no mistake, Iowa's facing a hunger crisis. Our people are struggling. Food banks and food pantries are breaking record after record, and some are closing because they can't keep up with the demand. And others are fundraising for larger facilities. We have to do something. And thankfully, we have proven policy solutions to address the crisis.
We stand ready to work with Governor Reynolds, state agencies, and the Iowa legislature to achieve these policy recommendations and our shared vision for a hunger-free Iowa. And we will now take any questions. If you want to put them in the chat, if you want to come off mute, raise a hand, whatever works. Yeah, Stephen.
Thank you for doing the call. I guess I'd like to start with a question about kind of what you think the future of maybe the summer EBT program is, and maybe some of these other federal programs, assistance programs under the incoming Trump administration.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen no indications that summer EBT specifically would be under attack. This is a permanent program. It's funded for next year. What we do know is there have been a number of proposals targeting SNAP and other nutrition programs. And so I think we as advocates are fully prepared, whether that's at the federal or state level, to protect SNAP, to protect benefits, to protect the ability for people to choose what foods they're purchasing with the program. So I think certainly there are some threats on the horizon, and we are fully prepared to meet those. So I will go to Tom.
Yeah, thank you for doing this call. I guess I wanted to get your reaction to statements from Governor Reynolds and the Iowa Department of Health and Human Services saying that it's their intent to, I guess, reapply for the waiver, or their intent to continue to move forward with the demonstration project under a new Trump administration. And then lastly, I was wondering if you could also, I guess, respond to I guess the assertion that's been made by the governor's office and HHS claiming that their proposal expands eligibility to serve more children, that it leverages Iowa's already established statewide network of summer feeding programs and partners, and that it would stretch dollars further, provide more healthy food to feed hungry kids.
Yeah, no, thank you. Great question, Tom. And I'll try to address all of those, but if I don't, please feel free to have a follow-up. And it might be helpful too to kind of just walk through the letter that USDA sent to Iowa denying this waiver request, because I think it has some important pieces. Um, I think if Governor Reynolds is going to submit this again under the Trump administration, I guess I would be extremely surprised if this waiver request were granted for a few reasons that are outlined in the letter. And you all should have received this. I believe I sent it to you all, but feel free. If not, I can send it. But in that letter from USDA, there's a few things that I want to call attention to. Um, on page one, or I guess it's point one, it's talking about the fact that USDA has already done demonstration projects. That's what led us to summer EBT. But also, I think a really critical piece is in the name, summer EBT. It is meant to be an electronic benefit transfer program. It's meant to be nutrition support for people to purchase their own groceries. It is written in the statute. And I think if this were just a minor waiver request, there may be a better shot. But this is not just a simple waiver request. The state's asking to waive 29 separate pieces of federal code. They're essentially saying we would like this money. We don't want to participate in this program. And I think from the start, we've kind of heard that from the governor's office. They would have preferred a block grant. That's just not what this program is. It's not a block grant. It is very specific, an electronic benefits transfer program. So I don't think USDA has the authority to make that sweeping of a waiver. Another piece I want to point to, this is point four on that letter. There's not really any federal funding to support this type of demonstration project. There was, and there were these summer feeding demonstration projects that helped us get to summer EBT. There's not really an appropriation or a legislated demonstration project that, okay, if we're not getting the waiver here, can we go here? And then the third piece, and I really want to focus some attention on this, is number 3 in that letter. And I'll read it out loud. The existing suite of summer nutrition program options already provides a pathway for providing food via the site and delivery models contained in the proposal. And one thing that Congress did when they permanently established the summer EBT program is they also permanently authorized some changes to summer meal programs. We had just had a couple years during the pandemic of drive-through meal distributions. A lot of flexibilities were granted. And during that time, I think USDA recognized, and schools and people who feed their kids at schools recognize there were some flexibilities that they really liked. And so, for instance, there is now a rural non-congregate option where instead of coming to a site and having to eat there, you can do a grab and go meal. And we've saw those this summer. But there are a number of other flexibilities. And if the state wanted, they could kind of stack those flexibilities to get extremely close to the governor's proposed program. So some of those flexibilities include providing a multi-issuance day of food. So providing up to 10 calendar days worth of food. And this can be for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks worth of food. Another flexibility is providing bulk food. So rather than pre-prepared food, providing more ingredients that families can prepare in bulk. And those can be done in combination. So again, now we're at a 10-day supply of food, bulk food. There's also some flexibilities to allow for delivery of food. So when you combine these flexibilities, to me, you already get extremely close to the program that the governor has proposed. Now, the only differences there I see are the income eligibility piece, which I'll just say if we increased income eligibility for SNAP up to 200%, that would also increase eligibility for summer EBT. Um, but the only real difference I see between what the governor has proposed and what these flexibilities are allow is a once monthly pickup versus every 10 days. And if that's the case, my question is why did the governor's office not simply ask for that waiver for these meal sites rather than asking, for 29 different pieces of federal code to get waived to use the summer EBT money? So I really think that number 3 on this letter deserves some scrutiny and questions to the governor's office. We could be doing something very similar to what the governor is proposing, and that includes federal meal reimbursements. So I want to say that also, Tom, I'll address the question about 200%. Um, I'm glad that the governor proposed raising the income eligibility for this program. I think it shows a recognition that there's a lot of folks who aren't currently being assisted. Um, that's why we're using this opportunity to call for raising the income eligibility for SNAP. But I think the governor's program relies on folks applying for that. The way I understand it is they would create, and it's in the budget, a $500,000 to create an application portal for this meal box program to have people sign in and sign up. And they're assuming 100% participation, that everyone's going to sign up. And so we're going to serve more people than summer EBT. We already know, and if you look at SNAP, we're at 42% participation. And so I have trouble when they're saying that we're going to get everyone signed up for this and it's going to serve more people than summer EBT. I'm not sure how. They have some funds built in for, I think, one mailer. But it's going to take a lot more outreach than that to hit 100% program participation. So yes, I am very skeptical that they would be able to get more folks signing up to receive that food box than they would participating in summer EBT. And if we're serious about raising the income eligibility, we have policy ways to do that. And Stephen, I saw you still have your hand up. So apparently my vague answer wasn't good enough for you. I'm joking. Go ahead.
Actually, I forgot to lower it, but I do have another question. Um, so maybe you could talk about how you saw things working this past summer, with the plan that was in place, and then just maybe what kind of conversations you've had with the state, about some of these proposals that you're telling us about today. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. John, I may put you on the spot to talk about summer meal programs in a second, so think about that while I give you some time. I mean, we have had conversations with the state about a lot of these different policy proposals for a while. I mean, these are not frankly new for this year. We've been talking about raising the income eligibility for SNAP for years. We've been talking about double up food bucks for years. Um, you know, I think the newer thing on this list is summer EBT. But a lot of these are not new. And as we mentioned, a lot of these have had bipartisan bills introduced in the legislature over the past few years. Same with expanding free school meals. Um, Real quick before I turn it over to John, I do want to note one thing about the grant program for this summer. I think it was a positive thing. We saw new meal sites that were launched as a result. But we also still saw a lot of gaps and a lot of barriers, and really want to stress that we see summer EBT as a complement, not a replacement to these, and it's meant to fill in those gaps. So I'm going to hand it over to John now to talk about his experience working with the program.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start by echoing that last point Luke made. Summer EBT will absolutely supplement what we're trying to do to ensure our local children have access to the food they need and deserve all summer long. So at the Coralville Food Pantry this past summer, we finished up our second year of hosting a summer lunch site. And ours was sort of a hybrid funding venture, partially USDA funded, partially just privately funded from our local community with donations from restaurants, our own like in-kind work to ensure that we had meals prepped. But we were sponsored by the local Iowa City Community School District, which in our school district, I think we had maybe less than 5 total sites. And we served in Coralville about 100 kids a day, which is great. It was up about 60, 70% from prior year. We knew we'd see an increase, but we know in Coralville, in the greater Coralville area, there's at least 1,000 or 1,200 kids who meet that eligibility, who would have received summer EBT benefits. So we're still not reaching everyone with just summer meal sites alone. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, but I think in the state of Iowa, still more than half of the school districts in Iowa did not have a summer lunch site available for kids.
That's right, John. And typically those numbers that John shared locally bear out across the state in terms of summer meal site participation as it relates to summer EBT, anywhere from 10 to maybe 13% of the kids who could benefit from summer EBT are visiting a summer meal site, which just speaks to the huge gap that we have. All right, Connor?
Hey, Luke, I just wanted to clarify. So, Reynolds says they're going to reapply when the Trump administration takes over. And you think even with a friendlier Trump administration USDA, this proposal will not get the green light?
Correct. I think what they're asking to do is, I mean, it would essentially be the same as if they submitted a waiver saying, we want all the money we would have received from SNAP, but we want that for food boxes. They're asking to waive federal statute. And that's, I mean, talking about waiving one piece of the regulations is one thing. Waiving federal code, I think if the Trump administration were to grant that, there would be grounds for a lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer, I should preface that, but I'm saying that I mean this would be a major that would have ripple effects beyond just the issue at hand here. Any other last questions?
I just had one last question. I was wondering maybe if John can talk a little bit about kind of the demand that he's seeing right now with his food pantry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tom. Not unlike the majority of pantries in the state, we've just seen historic growth, especially in the past 2 years. Over that time, we've seen an 81% increase for our food assistance and home delivery programs, which is our essential services that are provided to, I think it's close to 5,000 folks now in the greater Coralville community. So we've seen number of visits, number of home deliveries just continue to grow. This week, obviously, is the week of Thanksgiving, and this is the busiest week of the year for every food pantry in Iowa. So we're bracing for continued growth, and it's been a huge challenge, as was noted in our remarks today. So food pantries, food pantry staff, our infrastructure, it's being maxed out. We're being stretched thin. We're doing everything we can to ensure neighbors get access to the food that they need and deserve, but we're still falling short. And it says a lot when it's coming from a food pantry in a pretty well-resourced community like Johnson County. We have professional paid staff, amazing donor base, incredible food rescue efforts happening, but we're still running out of food at the end of the day. And the majority of pantries in Iowa don't have that luxury. They're run by volunteers. They're maybe run out of a local faith organization, and they are deeply struggling to meet that increased need.
Thank you, John. Any other questions? I will just say next steps for us. We are continuing to call on Governor Reynolds to participate in summer EBT in 2025. Iowa has until January 1st to submit that notice of intent to participate in the program. So we are calling on Governor Reynolds to participate in summer EBT, not to submit a waiver request. And we are launching a new organizational sign-on letter. We're asking folks to contact the governor's office. The Hunger Coalition is hosting an organizing call for advocates tomorrow to learn how you can take action, asking people to just spread awareness. But I think, when we're talking about food insecurity and specifically talking about low-income children during the summer, making sure they have access to food, um, really drawing that the connection to education as well. And so I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, Paige, but I thought maybe you could just close us out, really harkening back to why we're here and why we're talking about this and some of the really important pieces around nutrition security as it relates to children.
Yeah, no problem at all. So from the data we have, we know that about 40% of SNAP participants in Iowa are children themselves. We know that about 15% of kids in Iowa face hunger insecurity. That's 1 in 6 kids. So if you're sitting in a classroom of 24 students, that's 4 of those students, right? And I think we have just really good research and evidence as to how important it is that kids are fed so that they can then go and, participate actively in their schooling, in their classroom, get all of that great brain development, at an early age and really set themselves up for success and being able to thrive in the future. And I think that's why also, feeding our kids is such an investment in the state of Iowa's future. When kids don't go hungry, we see them do better in school. We see them graduate high school. We see them attend college. We see them become active parts of the workforce. This is all such a kind of interconnected system, and there's so many benefits to our state of feeding those kids, especially those kids who have the least access to food and need the most help in gaining that access. And so that's why we've really been supporting the summer EBT program, as well as for all the reasons you've mentioned, Luke, as far as flexibility and ensuring that those obstacles to access to other kind of food delivery systems are being overcome through the summer EBT program. We see that as a really good way to kind of proceed and get kids who don't have access to food and who are food insecure the nutrients they need to succeed and thrive. You know, all the way through in Iowa and become active members of our state.
Awesome. Thank you, Paige. Any final words, Anne or John?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll just jump in to just note that, food insecurity is not, it really reflects systemic economic challenges in our state, right? We have about 16% of households with a full-time worker who can't make ends meet. It's about half of single-parent families. It's about a third of working Black and Latino families. And so, it is not that, it's not personal failure here. It is really economic and systemic failure that we're trying to address.
Thank you all for being here. Feel free to follow up with any questions. And if you don't have the email for any of our speakers, I'm happy to forward that along if you just want to reply to me. I don't see any final questions, so I think we will go ahead and conclude. Thank you everyone for being here and hope you all have a great holiday weekend.
Mhm.